Morning. I am Julie of Jaybird Quilts, and welcome to the second video in the Delight Sew Along. Today, we are going to go over fabric selection. Um, Quick recap, if you didn't see the first video, that was a Q&A. And we are doing the Delight pattern. Signing up for the Sew Along is free. You need to purchase the pattern. You can get it from many quilt shops, printed in full color, or if you're having trouble finding it, you can download the PDF. To sign up for the Sew Along, Rachel will post the link here in the comments, and we'll just hop right on into fabric selection. As I mentioned the other day, the Delight sample behind me is Moonshine, not to be confused with Moon Garden, which is mostly what we're going to be talking about today. My Moon Garden sample is out traveling at quilt shops and not here right now. So I picked out another one of my samples to show you. So this sew along is really going to be about fussy cutting. The Delight pattern can be done with basics and blenders, as you can see on the cover sample of the original one that I did. But for the purposes of this sew along, we're going to talk about how to use the Hexamore ruler to really feature some amazing, fantastic prints. So I'm going to show you the Moon Garden prints that I know that many of you are going to be using. Pardon me, got something in my eye. The Moon Garden prints that I know that many of you are going to be using. And I'm also going to show you some other options and possibilities and suggestions. Many people know that I have been a Tula Pink fan for a long time. I dug deep in my stash this morning and got out some stuff. I wonder if there's like a year on the salvage because that would be fantastic. But we're talking like 10-year-old stuff here. This is over 10 years old. This is Plume. This would be fantastic in Delight. One thing that I do, if I'm wondering if a print's going to work well in this quilt, is I kind of audition it behind the ruler to see the large featured thing. So in this case, this bird, how would it fit in the hexagon? And the answer is amazingly. Now, some of you might be familiar with this because this was one of the prints that Tula came out with when she did her all-star re-release. I want to say that was 4 or 5 years ago already. Was that? I don't know. It was a while ago. So this was the original. It came in a few colorways, but I have a bunch of the green. And this was the printing in all-stars. She definitely changed up the artwork a little bit, added some additional flowers and more butterflies in the background and whatnot. If you have this one, it would work really, really well as well. Make sure I don't have the glare there so you can see. So kind of putting the hexagon shape over to see how well that fabric would work. The fabric requirements call for 10-inch squares because that's a popular size. Many companies call them layer cakes or 10 squares. But this works well from your stash, from scraps, from yardage. You can get, if you have, for instance, a blender or a basic that you're not going to be fussy cutting, you can get 4 large hexagons out of a fat quarter. And if you have a perfectly cut quarter yard, because you need an 8.5-inch wide strip, you can also get 4. But sometimes they get wonky, or if you happen to pre-wash and it shrinks. But you can get 4 out of a fat quarter. We suggested that shops, if they put kits together, did half yards because while you can get it out of this fabric, you can't get 4 out of this unless you don't care about fussy cutting. And when you have a flower that is that amazing and has that much depth and detail and design, you want to show it off. I want to show it off, like this, as opposed to like that. It's still a nice piece, just not nearly as interesting. And this quilt, because the pieces are so big, really has fun opportunities to do fussy cutting. So the original Moon Garden one that I made, and I've posted pictures of that on Instagram, and I think they've been in, some of them have been in the emails we've sent, and some of them are on the blog post. I made the lap size, and that has 50 hexagons. And this collection, when you take out the background, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So I did everything 3 times, and I think there was a couple that I did twice. Um, but if that makes sense. So, but I think this time, since I've already made that, and why do I need to make the same exact quilt twice? I mean, I've done that. I made Nebula 4 times at this point. But I'm gonna have fun. So I think I'm going to fussy cut one each out of my 18 Moon Garden fabrics. And then I don't know if I'm going to do the baby and just add a few more, or if I'm going to go big and do the lap. If you have opinions and feelings, please share them. Tell me what you think I should do. Just don't say queen. I don't have a need for a queen size quilt in my life right now. Um, I think I'm going to mix in this amazing stash that I have here to the side that yes, you will begin to drool over. Um, this pattern works really well with the faces that Tula has done. So all the fabrics I have to show you today are Tula. You are not limited to Tula in this sew along. You can use whatever fabric you like. I just happen to have a larger Tula pink stash than anything else. And her fabrics, she tends to have some large featured prints in each collection that really lend themselves well to the fussy cutting goal that we're going to be doing here with Delight. So this is from the Parisville Deja Vu that I think is in stores now. Um, and so this was a re-release of one of her earlier collections. And this print happens to have this face with the ship as the hair. Um, and as you can see, I can't get all of the stuff that's around the face, but I can get a lot of it and I can get the face. So this would do really, really well. And it happens to have some similar colors to Moon Garden. I don't know that all the ones I picked out are going to work with this. I think I'm going to have to kind of pick and choose and play color palette wise, but these definitely go well together. One thing I will say about fabric selection is you it's like the chicken and the egg. You can pick your background fabrics and then pick all of your pieces to make sure they contrast, or you can go the other way around, pick all your pieces and then pick your background. You also could go with one fabric. So if you wanted less contrast, you could go with one fabric. It would still be pieced, but visually it would look like this. Also, except that not every piece is or has to contrast off of the back as much as all of them. So for instance, these navy prints and the red definitely pop off of the blue and the gray. But this cream doesn't pop so much. The yellow doesn't pop as much. Even this gray doesn't pop as much. The blue definitely doesn't. And if I'd had the blue next to the blue, it wouldn't. And that's okay. So you can put fabric first and then background, or background first. I have a bunch of different background options to show you as well. But so this, I'm definitely going to be adding this one to my mix. This is from Elizabeth. And again, has one of her faces with the pieces around. And I can go like that. And this is one of those where if I unfold and you can see more of the fabric. Apologize that I literally just dug these out of bins, so none of them are in any way pressed. I definitely do suggest pressing before doing your fussy cutting, the best results. But so this is something where I can decide how high or how low. Obviously the center line is pretty well defined by the face. This is a very mirror image face, but I can decide how high and low so that I have a little bit of pink above the head, but that I get as much of this floral kind of wreath thing going on as much as possible. So I would probably cut this piece here. And the reality is with fussy cutting that you are going to end up with some Swiss cheese fabric. And by fussy cutting this one, I'm getting pretty close to this head, and I'm not going to be able to use that as another hexagon. I could use it for something smaller. I could worry about fussy cutting these flowers with the triangles. It's not that the fabric is wasted. It's just going to be used differently than having this specific face to be one of the large hexagons. So that is Elizabeth. And then these are more recent. This is Curiouser. So this is the Alice in Wonderland collection. Um, and this is a fun one where you kind of have two possibilities. So what Tula did in the background here is she did this bunny that's actually from her first, is an ode to her first collection, Full Moon Forest. This bunny was in that, as well as Hushabye. So the obvious fussy cut is this, is Alice and the cat and the floral stuff. The less obvious is this, and it does have some of those, and you may not like that it has some of the Alice parts in the corner, but that bunny's awesome. And especially if I was doing something smaller, like if I was doing a 4-inch hexagon, like that bunny's cool. That bunny is not just in my eyes to be relegated to the background. That bunny is cool. So there are different possibilities of what to fussy cut out of individual pieces. This piece is more just the queen. The background is great for cutting tiny triangles and tiny things for blenders. So it has these hearts, but it's not as exciting for fussy cutting for something like this. So there's the queen. And if you really wanted the Q, you could shift it up here, or you could just worry about centering the face. That is up to you. If you were doing something square, the Q would be there, but we're not square. We're doing hexagons. So if you have questions while I'm showing these fabrics, please hop on in with those at any time in the comments. I will answer them live, or Rachel is in the comments and will answer you. If you're watching this recorded, please ask questions as well, and we will always come back and leave comments. So another fun thing that you can do is play with scale. So these are actually two of the wide backs from Tula's homemade collection. So the original prints of these, the ruler is much more true to size ruler. This is or measuring tape. This is large. That's way bigger than an inch. This is supersized for the back. But because you have this supersize, yes, this works well for backing, but sometimes, like, this is a big piece I haven't cut into yet. But this is leftover from when you get your quilt back from the long armor, or you get it back yourself and you trim off and you have a little bit of batting left over, and you have this piece that's like 2 feet long, and you're like, what am I going to do with this? I don't want to throw it away. I tend to use these in the back of pillows or as backings for table toppers and whatnot. But another good fun option is fussy cutting for delight, because the scale, while there isn't something specific to center in the fussy cutting here. It's not like, unless that's your favorite number 9, and you want to fussy cut that. It's just the scale of this compared to the scale of something smaller just makes it fun to fussy cut, fun to just feature. So, depending on how big of a piece you are, you can kind of find an area you like. But this is just more about utilizing scale than specifically fussy cutting. So that is another fun possibility. I have a very deep, big Tula closet. I wasn't able to get to the very back of it in time and still be here for you. One that I wanted to get to, but I couldn't, was Monkey Wrench. I think the large bananas from the back of Monkey Wrench would be fantastic. Diana said, can the pattern be modified for smaller hexes and triangles? The answer is yes. So everything on the ruler is scale and works to be scaled down. That being said, I actually have put together a miniature one of this. So that is something that is a pattern that's available. Let me grab it for you. Pretty organized in my little filing cabinet system here. So this is Mini Delight. And these are tiny little 2-inch hexagons cut from charm packs. And this entire finished quilt is 12.5 by 16.5. So it's kind of like a placemat. Some people are good at figuring out the math and can just figure this out from here, and that's great. A lot of other people asked for it. So I have a 15 mini patterns in the collection of Jaybird Quilts patterns that are shrunken down miniature versions. And this one happens to utilize the mini hexamore, which is the tiny little keychain ruler. Where's she at? Um, you can use the regular hex and more. These shapes are on there when you get the mini hex, is what she looks like, with paper on the back. And then this is what it looks like when you peel it off. And you can take the chain out so that you can use it as a ruler. Um, this allows you to do more fussy cutting than using the large ruler. But yeah, so that you can shrink it. In addition, there's, if you consider this like mini, there's also, and you consider this large, there's also small and medium, which I've not written patterns for, but if you look at the sizes on the ruler, as I mentioned in the Q&A a few days ago, 1 goes with 2, 2 goes with 4, 3 goes with 6, 4 goes with 8. That'll make more sense. If you're confused, you can go back and watch that one. Do I have recommendations for darker black or gray background? I think ink fairy flakes would be great. I don't think the scale is too large. So I'll jump over to background for a moment. And you could mix it with non-Tula if you really want two prints. She hasn't had a really black on black besides that one in a long time. There's some really older ones from like Slow and Steady. But I grabbed a whole bunch of different on the lighter end. And so this is the white fairy flakes. And it's kind of always hard to see. Let's see. Can you see it over here? Can you see those shapes? So for people who don't know fairy flakes, it's a tone on tone. It's a white printed on white and a black printed on black. And some of the triangles, you might be able to even fussy cut the bird that's down here, but I think the scale is going to be fine. I wouldn't let that stop me. It's more just what prints are you going to use? If you're going to be using predominantly, lighter, brighter prints that you want to have a super dark background, go for it. If you're going to be using a lot of darker prints like this, then I think it's definitely more advantageous to go with a lighter background. So the two that I used in the Moon Garden sample, I know many of you are going to use, are these two that are from that collection. They're called Baby Geo. And I used, it's kind of hard with the lighting. This has like pink undertones to it and purple. But I pulled out some other light or light-ish colored things that you might want to consider. This rainbow hexie in gray is a Tula Basic. It's from her True Colors, so it's available pretty widespread. You can find it at most quilt shops. You could use it with one of these. You could use it with something else. I think that would look kind of really cool. And I also pulled out some older, so Fairy Flakes is also available now. And then I pulled out some older things in case you happen to have these in your stash and you forgot about them. Tula first did True Colors 5+ years ago. I don't know, 8 years, long time ago. And they were a very different palette. But one of the fabrics that she did was this white on white. It's just a really small flower. And I kind of knew it was going to be a perfect background, so I stocked up on it. Don't ask for my stash. I don't share. I love you, but I don't share. So this would do really well. Zuma, which was a number of years ago. This is kind of her first foray into neon. It's hard to tell through the video, but this is neon pink. And it's tiny little seahorses and starfish and anchors and polka dots. But it would work really well, this could be fun with the pink, 2 different pink ones. And then this is going really far back. This is Saltwater, which was Tula's second or third collection with Free Spirit. Parisville, Prince Charming, Birds of the Beat, maybe fourth. You think I know all these in order. I should win Tula Jeopardy, but there's just so many now. Once you hit like 20 and 30, it became hard to keep track of in a good way. So this has more green undertones. I don't know if you can see that, but like if I hold it up against this, um, you know, they while all white cream something, they will all read that way, in the background of a quilt. They all have their own tones to them. But so this is just kind of a as basic as Tula gets. Tula, I think part of why she did her black and white fairy flakes is she said she doesn't really want to use just solid white or just solid black. And so this is the fun way to do that. There's also I didn't pull them out, but the fairy flake, not fairy flakes. What's the other fairy dust from True Colors. Um those are kind of like pastelly, um uh pinkish coral, yellow, blue, green, gray, and I think they just added white as a part of Everglow. That one's not out yet, so there's 6 now, there's gonna be 7. Um, those could work really well in the background as well. Um, do you think Free Spirit solids match Tula's fabric lines? Yes. So, Tula has her collection of solids within Free Spirit Solids, and those are the colors that she has curated to go with her fabric. And I think there's lots of solid possibilities too. So this is definitely I do a lot of my shopping online, but I think this is a fun opportunity if you have a quilt shop near you to go somewhere in person, and pull bolts off walls, because this is one of those where you want to see it and touch it and feel it. I had a lot of fun pulling all of this out of the closet this morning, and really recognizing and seeing how many older collections are going to look really cool with Moon Garden. So, if you weren't here in the very beginning, I was saying that instead of making exactly the same Moon Garden one again, I think I'm going to cut one each of the Moon Garden prints, and then I'm going to cut from some of the older collections. So, going to show off some of those again. So this is Spirit Animal. So these are little sea otters. They're just taking a bath. I mean, I guess they live in the water, so not a bath, but it seems like they're taking a bath to me. And some of the moons and stars. Where did my hexamore go? It's kind of hard to show you fussy cut if I can't find it. I think it's buried under fabric. It is. So this is another one where this is not the scale, is not super large. So what I would be focused on in this one with fussy cutting is getting as many otters as I can, and also keeping the orientation right. So some quilts, the hexagons go across, and then some things you can kind of see it best here in the mini, they point up and down. Okay, so we're not going to be cutting our hexagons like this, because then our otters are going to be on their side. It's not the end of the world, but that's not how we ideally want that. So this dashed line here, that you can see, I guess I should hold it the right way. Nope, that was the right way. This dashed line above where it says 8.5-inch half hex, 6.5, 4.5, 2.5, that dashed line is your center line. And so you want to keep that vertical. Well, you can see like me and me, it's all meta there. So I think I would probably go here to have both of them. I could go up here, but then I'd have the same dude twice. So I think I'd go here, have a few moons kind of surrounding them. That's how I think I would do this print. And just a quick reminder, Friday is going to be the fussy cutting how-to video, and I will show a lot of these fabrics again, and I will show how I end up fussy cutting them. So you can kind of watch my brain live work. I should say live, but you'll be watching it recorded. So Friday's going to be recorded, but you can watch my brain work in real time. So this is from Foxfield. And see the little fox, little dude. There's other things. You got a bird. You got a bunny. There's big florals. So this is the kind of thing that if I was using this print multiple times, I could feature something different each time. I think I really like the fox there. So I think I'm going to, work on featuring him in the center of my block. And then showed you that one. Trying to stay organized here. This is Slow and Steady. So tortoise and the hare, and this is the hare. And in true Tula fashion, this is intricate. There is basically all of these leaves and feathers and whatnot that make up the hare. But there's the ears, the back, the butt, little tail there, my hands and feet. So I might not be able to get it all. Let's see. I think I'm going to kind of possibly lose some of the ears. That's what I'm going to have to decide. I'm going to have to kind of go up and down and figure out, do I want to lose the little front feet or the ears, or can I get it all? Part of fussy cutting is deciding, I won't say sacrifice, but it is sacrifice, is deciding what you want to feature. You can't always show every part. So it's making that decision. And it's also accepting that you can cut two pieces from the same fabric, and one time you can feature one thing and one time you can feature something else. This is Daydreamer, which is still in a lot of stores right now. Daydreamer just started coming out about a year ago, I think, give or take. So this print has the little shrimp dude up here and the flamingos, and then the feathers kind of make a heart. So I think I would probably start with this being my center line where the flamingos come together. And I don't know that I would go all the way up here to get that heart, because then I'd be losing the flamingo butts. I think I would probably go a little further down. You might still get some part of the heart, but you would get the flamingo bodies. So this is another good print. And this is kind of how my stash is. So like you can see, I clearly cut a diamond out down here that I fussy cut. And then over here, it looks like I fussy cut a half hexagon at some point. I tend to buy half yards or yards of prints that are larger like this. And then I just kind of Swiss cheese them up as I go. And I leave these pieces attached until I need to cut it into smaller triangles or smaller something else, so that it's here in case I need it. Because this, while this is a scrap, this is big enough that, if I was making Mini Delight, I could totally get my little flamingo in there. Now I kind of might want to do that. Not that I don't have enough things going on in my life, but how adorable is that? Man, it is stinking cute. Oh, you know what else would be good? Ooh, the little shrimp. Oh, this is happening. Rachel, add that to my to-do list. We're making a fussy cut little Mini Delight. Look at that tiny little shrimp. Oh my God. See, this is what happens. This is how it's shocking I get anything done sometimes, because I get very distracted with exciting things. I mean, these fabrics are fun. Whether you're using Tula new, Tula old, stuff from your stash, non-Tula, fabric is fun. It's one of the main reasons many of us got into this. And I have found if you don't like the fabric, it's not as much fun to sew. And so I learned early on, if I'm sewing something for someone else, instead of giving them carte blanche on fabric, I give them 2 or 3 options. And they're all options that I like, that I would be okay with sewing. Because when you like the fabric, you enjoy the process more. So if you're enjoying these fabrics, go for it. If these are not your style, make your own delight. Make it in your happy place. This is also from Zuma, which is that one background I showed you. And so this has like these little pink parts up here. You probably can't tell, but those are neon, those little pink things. And these jellyfish are just super, super cool. So I think with this, I would just be focused on, I mean, they're kind of non-directional. They go like up and down, but I think I would probably try and get most of them to go up and down as opposed to too many of them sideways. So I think this is where I would probably go. I'd either go down here to get these 2 or try and get all 3. That could be really fun. You guys are all quiet. Are you just mesmerized by the amazing fabric? Have some of you like never seen these things possibly, or only like in pictures? have an extensive stash. Like I said, I've been a Tula junkie for a long time. This is Chipper. And there's a little chipmunk. I used to call him a squirrel sometimes, and then I realized Chipper, chipmunk, CC. But yeah, so there's a little chipmunk, and there are floral things in here that would be fun, fussy cut in different sizes as well. But I think I would work on featuring this little character. So I'd probably go here, and I'd still get some nice floral things going on. But this would be another fun one. It's going to be fun to cut up all these older ones. This is look at the selvage. This is spirit animal as well. I didn't get all the way in the closet to birds and the bees. There's a lot of fun stuff in that one as well. So this is spirit animal. It's got this great bird. And I can kind of decide. The other thing, I wouldn't worry about grain so much. So if you have something that you want to cut off grain, like if you really want the bird to be like this, totally okay with this project. You're enclosing all of those edges pretty quickly, with the exception of the ones around the border, and you can stabilize those. So I say go for what you want to see rather than what you feel like you need to keep with the grain. Because even when you cut with the grain, 2 of your sides are going to be grain and 4 of them are going to be bias. So you do this, you got 6 bias, or you might end up still having 2 straight of grain. Feature your animal, your creature, your flower, your face, however best it's going to look in your quilt, as opposed to worrying about grain. This is Eden, I think. Yep, Eden. Eden had this really cool moth and lotus flowers. So, I could feature the flower, or I could go down to feature the moth. I could try and I think I can get a lotus and a moth pretty much. Maybe I'm losing the points of it, but most of it in one cut. So that is going to be fun. And this is another one of those that the colors are not necessarily an exact match by any means with a much newer collection, but they go. The coral that's in here is in here, and some of the aqua that's in here is in here. So like, I don't know that I put these directly next to each other, but like in a quilt where you're fussy cutting an owl and fussy cutting a moth, I think it's going to be fun to have these both together in that same space. And what else do I have for you? Tabby Road. Some of you might recognize the cat kind of came back in Curiouser and Curiouser. This cat kind of made a new appearance, but this is Tabby Road. And there's a couple different cats. There's this striped one who's standing up. There's this polka dotted one on all 4 legs. There's a striped one on all 4 legs. So if I was going to use this print multiple times in one quilt, I think one time I would feature this striped one here, and then I would feature this polka dotted one. There's a lot of good possibilities. This fabric specifically, as I mentioned, I tend to buy yards or half yards, and you can see this is if you really get into fussy cutting, which I do love to do with my Tula fabrics, this is kind of what your fabric's going to look like, this little bit of a Swiss cheese, because if I lay it out, it looks like that was a half hexagon there, that was a jewel here, and I find the little bit of extra money to have some extra yardage to do that outweighs my feelings of having like half a cat in a block. Like I could conserve and have half a cat. I'm pretty good at conserving with my backgrounds and my blenders and my solids. I said go big with your feature prints. This is from Tula's 8th collection that she did. This was her 2nd collection with Free Spirit. It's Prince Charming. It's one of my favorites. I love all the underwater blue corally collections, Neptune being my favorite. But this frog, he's so much fun. And some of you might also recognize him because he came back again in All Stars. So there's the OG and there's the new one, but both of them would work really well. I think you can see it better on camera. If I fussy cut, that would look really good. Last two old ones, and then, or no, I have a few more. This is a scrap. This is a scrap of a border. This is actually one of Tula's collections from when she did fabric with Moda. This is called Hushabye. This is super old. And she doesn't really do brown much at all anymore. This has some brown in it. But this owl, super intricate little owl going on here, I think would look great as a fussy cut hexagon. Fussy cutting, not only does it make for an interesting quilt and whatnot, but it really draws your eye in, I think, to be able to pay respect to the art that Tula or anybody here, really puts into their work, because they go to great lengths to create amazing fabrics for us to play with. And sometimes, we chop them into tiny little triangles and that's all you see. But when you get the chance to feature that, it's just cool. It really is. One last fabric I pulled out is not so much about fussy cutting, but again, about directional. So this is also, I think, from Spirit Animal. Yes. Nope. Foxfield. This is from Foxfield, and it is a whole lot of feathers. Different tall, skinny ones, fatter, wide ones. And this is the kind of print that I would want to just make sure that I keep vertical, as opposed to, like, I don't think it's meant to be as much on its side. I think it does well. And while I don't have a flower or an animal or something to fussy cut, I do have these mirrors. So I would focus on keeping my dashed line in the center of one of them, regardless of how high or how low I go, so that my block is a mirror image, which just makes it even more interesting. So, you have this mirror line here, this mirror line here. So that's how I would use this print. And then I have mentioned All Stars because I pulled out some of the fabrics. All of the fabrics from All Stars would do great. I'm wondering if they might be a good portion of what I mix in. But you've got, I think they're all in 2 or 3 colors. So got the squirrel, got the bee from Flutterby, got the big bird that I already showed you, and I have the original one from Plume. This is a modified version of the owl, which is what I showed you in the brown. So got the owl in blue and in purple and in pink. Getting threads all over me. Got the frog from Prince Charming. And this is a perfect example of, I already did fussy cut one of them. Took a jewel out. My heart quilt that I have not finished, that I started right at the beginning of COVID, has a ton of fussy cut large jewels. So there's the one and there's the other, because I used them together to make hearts. So I have these random holes in my fabric, and I'm okay with that. And then we have the, I think this is the raccoon. So that is in like more of a creamy green and blue, and this like on fire pink. And this pink really pulls from the pink in Moon Garden. So I definitely think I want to use this one, because they feel like they were meant to be together. They don't feel like they're from 2 totally different things. A lot of that has to do with Tula's style, the way she puts stripes on balls and on things, and on leaves. Her style is very signature. So I'm going to be using a lot of these new ones, and then I'm going to be using the Moon Garden ones that I featured in the original quilt. So there's going to be the big flower. There's going to be the owl. There's going to be the snake, which I think she named Hissy Fit. I mean, how appropriate of a name for fabric. Um, so it's got the snake there. And I will go into detail on Friday and how to fussy cut these. This is like a little dragonfly, I think. Um, and then when you have something like this, you're going to get more than one bird. So it's about making choices. You might be like, you know what? I don't want that fabric in this quilt. I want to feature just big, giant things where I'm only going to get one owl, one snake. And that's fine. You don't have to use this print just because it came with the collection. I might not use it this time. Who knows? But if I was going to use it, I want to make sure, since the birds all have their feet this way, that I'm keeping the fabric this way, and that I'm doing my best to not like make an obvious chop off a head up here. I might, looks like I can kind of fit those four and then like the little bit of a tail of one. But if I'm going to have a head of one or something, I want it to be as intentional as possible and not just like right accidentally cut off his beak or his head, because that's not so nice if we don't have to do that. And then the other fabrics in the collection are, I don't want to say non-directional. There's not large feature, but they do have direction to them. There's like this ombre one. So with this, it's a question of, do I want more of a purple hexagon or more of a blue gray one? You have the freedom to decide where to place this. And do I want those stripes going up and down, or do I want them this way? That's another thing to consider. And then this same one comes in like a greeny yellow with some coral going on. And then the lazy stripe, which came back from, was it Birds and the Bees? It was definitely around for something else. I think it was Birds and the Bees. And I think it was also around for the first True Colors. So depending on the quilt you're going for, you may want to use prints like this to have a place to rest your eye, so that it's not all about the fussy cut. So, these are more like this print and the dot, or you could decide to go big, which is what I think I'm going to do this time. And I don't know if I'm going to use these. I might not use these, and I might just focus on using big prints, old and new, and using this as an opportunity to just really feature the characters. So many possibilities with fabric selection. If you have questions, please ask them in the comments. If you are hemming and hawing about your own fabric selection, use the Facebook group. Post some pictures. Say, do you guys like option A, option B? Or say, I really love this and I don't know where to go from here. Ask a question, and people will answer. There is thousands of people in there, and they love supporting you and giving you feedback and sharing information. So it's a really good place. You can also always email Rachel or I, but the Facebook group is a really good, quick way to get a lot of feedback from a lot of people. That are your virtual friends that are working on the same thing as you, so it's a good sounding board. It's similar to being in a classroom with other quilters. So I am looking forward to being back here with you on Friday. So on Friday, I'm going to talk about how we're going to mark our ruler and how we're then going to use that ruler on the fabric and line it up, how best practices with rotary cutter, since we're going all the way around. Um, and then next week we'll work on putting the quilt together. So any questions, go ahead and ask them. Again, I'm Julia of Jaybird Quilts, and thanks for joining us here today, and I will see you back soon.